Night was quiet, but his mind was not. He sat alone in his old car, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring at the dark street in front of him. The dashboard clock blinked past midnight. Another long shift was over. His back hurt. His eyes burned. All he wanted was to go home and sleep for a few hours before life started again in the morning. He opened his wallet. Inside were a few worn bills and some loose change. $18, that was it. He counted it twice, hoping he had missed something. He hadn't. That money was supposed to buy gas, bread, and maybe eggs. Nothing extra. No mistakes allowed. Tomorrow was already a problem waiting to happen. He closed the wallet slowly and leaned back in his seat. Being a single dad meant every decision mattered. There was no one else to catch things if he fell. No backup plan. No safety net. Just him and the child sleeping at home, trusting him to figure things out. He started the car and drove. A few blocks later, he slowed down at a red light. That's when he saw the man. The stranger sat on the sidewalk near a closed store, back against the wall, knees pulled close to his chest. His clothes were thin. His head was lowered. A small cardboard sign rested near his feet, but the words were hard to read in the dark. Hungry. Anything helps. The light stayed red. Cars passed by without stopping. People walked past without looking. The dad felt something tighten in his chest. He tried to look away, but he couldn't. He knew that look, the tired eyes. The way the man barely moved, as if standing up took more strength than he had left. The quiet kind of desperation that didn't beg, because it had already learned begging didn't work. The light turned green. He should have driven. Instead, he pulled over. The moment he stopped the car, doubt rushed in. What am I doing? He glanced at his wallet again. $18. That money had a job. It wasn't spare. It wasn't extra. It was survival. He thought about his child, about breakfast, about the empty fridge, about how close everything already was to falling apart. He rolled the window down halfway. "Hey," he said quietly. The stranger looked up, surprised. His face was thin, his beard uneven, his eyes sharp but tired. "Yes," the man said. The dad hesitated. His mouth felt dry. "I don't have much," he said. "But, you okay?" The stranger nodded slowly. "I will be." Something about the answer felt strange. Calm. Certain. The dad reached for his wallet. His fingers froze. Every voice in his head screamed at him to stop. This was not the time. This was not the place. Kindness was expensive, and he couldn't afford it. But another memory surfaced. A younger version of himself, standing in a line once, ignored by everyone around him, remembering how invisible he felt. He pulled the money out. All $18. He held it for a moment, staring at it like it might disappear. Then he handed it over. The stranger's eyes widened slightly. "All of it?" the man asked. The dad nodded. "Yeah, all of it." The stranger took the money carefully, almost respectfully. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply looked at the bills, then back at the dad. "Thank you," he said. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," the dad replied. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city felt strangely quiet. Then the stranger said something that made the dad pause. "Some choices follow us longer than we expect." The words landed heavy. The dad frowned. "What does that mean?" But the stranger was already standing up. "Get home safe," the man said. "And don't regret this." With that, he walked away down the dark street, disappearing between buildings. The dad sat there, confused. "Don't regret this?" He shook his head, rolled the window up, and drove off. As he turned the corner, he felt something he couldn't explain. Not relief. Not pride. Unease. At home, the lights were off. The house was quiet. He stepped inside softly, checking on his child, who slept peacefully, unaware of how close the edge always felt. The dad sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. No money, no plan. What had he done? He lay down eventually, but sleep didn't come easily. The stranger's words repeated in his mind. Some choices follow us longer than we expect. Morning arrived too fast. He got up early, moving quietly, trying not to wake his child. He searched the kitchen, already knowing what he would find. Bare shelves, an empty fridge. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it, heart beating faster, then let it ring out. A few hours later, he noticed something else. A black SUV drove slowly past his house. Then another. They didn't stop. They didn't honk. They didn't do anything at all. They just passed by. The dad stood near the window, watching the street, his stomach tight. He told himself it was nothing, but deep down, he felt it. That night, that stranger, that $18, something had already started. And he had no idea how big it was going to be. The dad barely slept that night. Every small sound woke him up. A car passing, a door closing somewhere down the street. Each time, his heart jumped, even though he didn't know why. By morning, his head felt heavy, and his body felt slower than usual. He stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty counter. No money, no food, no plan. His child came out rubbing sleepy eyes and asked what was for breakfast. The dad forced a smile. "We'll figure something out," he said. But inside, worry tightened his chest. He kept thinking about the stranger, about the way the man had spoken, calm, certain, like he knew something the dad didn't. Some choices follow us longer than we expect. He pushed the thought away and got ready for the day. After dropping his child off, he walked back home. Halfway down the street, he noticed something again. A black SUV parked near the corner, engine running, windows dark. He slowed his steps. The vehicle didn't move. He kept walking, pretending not to notice, but his mind raced. Maybe it's nothing, he told himself, just someone waiting. At home, he sat on the couch, trying to relax. Minutes passed. Then another SUV drove slowly by. This one didn't stop either. It just cruised past the house and disappeared. Now he couldn't ignore it. He stood near the window, careful not to be obvious, and watched the street. Everything looked normal. Neighbors went about their day. Kids played down the block. Nothing felt wrong. And yet, something felt off. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He stared at it longer this time. Should I answer? He didn't. The phone stopped ringing. A message appeared. "We need to talk." That was it. No name, no explanation. His hands shook slightly as he locked the phone. The rest of the day moved slowly. He tried to distract himself by cleaning, fixing small things around the house. Anything to stop his thoughts from spinning. But every few minutes, he checked the window. Once, he thought he saw someone taking pictures from across the street. Or maybe he imagined it. By evening, fear started to settle in. Had he done something wrong? He replayed the moment over and over. He had just given money to a stranger. That was it. No crime. No argument. No trouble. So why did it feel like trouble was coming? When his child came home, the dad hid his worry behind jokes and smiles. He made a simple meal with what little he could find. He listened as his child talked about the day, nodding, responding, grunting everything was fine. But inside, he felt like he was standing on unstable ground. Later that night, he heard a car slow down outside. He froze. Headlights washed over the walls through the window. The engine idled for a moment. Then it drove away. He waited until the sound was gone before breathing again. This is getting ridiculous, he thought. I'm scaring myself. But deep down, he knew fear doesn't come from nothing. The next morning, he woke up early again. The street outside was quiet. Too quiet. As he stepped outside to take the trash out, a neighbor waved. "Everything okay?" the neighbor asked casually. "Yeah," the dad replied. "Why?" the neighbor hesitated. "Just seen some strange cars around here lately." The dad forced a laugh. Probably nothing, but his stomach dropped. Even others noticed. As he walked back inside, his phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. This time he answered, "Hello?" There was a pause on the other end. Then a calm voice spoke. "You helped someone last night." The dad's heart pounded. "Yes," he said slowly. "Who is this?" "We'll explain soon," the voice replied. "Just stay home tomorrow morning." The line went dead. He stood there, phone pressed to his ear, breath shallow. "Stay home? Why?" He looked out the window again. Down the street, a black SUV sat parked, silent and still. That night, sleep didn't come at all. By morning, he was exhausted, tense and scared. At exactly the same time the next day, the sound of engines filled the street. He stepped toward the window. One SUV, then another, then another. They were stopping. Right in front of his house. The engines stopped one by one. The dad stood frozen near the window, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Outside, 5 black SUVs were now parked neatly along the street, all facing his house. Not sideways. Not random, organized. The street went quiet. Neighbors stepped out onto their porches, whispering, watching. Curtains moved. Phones came out. His hands began to shake. This can't be about me, he thought. But deep down, he knew it was. A door opened on the first SUV, then another. And another. Men and women stepped out, dressed neatly, no uniforms. No weapons, calm faces, serious eyes. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They walked toward his front door. His child stood behind him, confused and scared. "Who are they?" The child asked softly. The dad swallowed hard. "I don't know," he said. "Stay behind me." A knock echoed through the house. Not loud, not angry. Just firm. He took a deep breath and opened the door. "Yes?" he asked. One of the visitors stepped forward. The person spoke politely, almost gently. "Are you the man who lives here?" "Yes," the dad replied, his voice tight. "What's going on?" "We need to speak with you," the visitor said. "May we come in?" The dad hesitated. His mind raced. Should he say no? Should he ask more questions? His neighbors were watching. His child was behind him. Slowly, he nodded and stepped aside. They entered the house quietly, respectful of the space. No one touched anything. No one raised their voice. They stood in the living room, looking around as if they already knew what they would find. Simple furniture. Worn carpet. A small, struggling home. One of them glanced at a photo on the wall. The dad and his child smiling together. The visitor turned back to him. "You helped a man 2 nights ago," the visitor said. "You gave him money." The dad's chest tightened. "Yes," he said. "I did. Do you remember what he looked like?" "Yes," the dad answered. "Why?" Another visitor stepped forward. "That man is connected to someone important." The dad felt dizzy. "Important how?" he asked. No one answered right away. Outside, more neighbors gathered. The street felt heavy, like something big was happening, even if no one understood what. One visitor cleared their throat. "First, we need you to understand something," they said. "You are not in trouble." The dad let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "But," the visitor continued, "your choice caught attention." The word attention echoed in his head. "I didn't do anything special," the dad said. "I just helped someone." The visitor nodded slowly. "That's exactly why we're here." The dad stared at them, confused and overwhelmed. "You're telling me," he said carefully, "that 5 SUVs came to my house because I gave someone $18. Silence filled the room. "Yes," one of them replied. His legs felt weak. He sat down on the couch without meaning to. His child stood close, holding onto his arm. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "I don't know who that man was." "You weren't supposed to," another visitor said. The dad looked up sharply. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, the visitor looked at the others and nodded slightly. "Tomorrow," they said, "we will explain everything." "Tomorrow?" The dad repeated. "Why not now?" "Because," the visitor replied, "you deserve to hear the full truth calmly." "Not like this." They handed him a card. No logo, no title. Just a number. If you have questions tonight, call, the visitor said. But stay home. The dad's voice shook. Am I safe? The visitor met his eyes. Yes, they said. You are. They turned and left as quietly as they came. Outside, engines started again. One by one, the SUVs pulled away, leaving the street in stunned silence. Neighbors whispered. Some stared. Others backed away slowly. The dad closed the door and leaned against it. His child looked up at him. Are we okay? The child asked. The dad nodded, even though his heart was still racing. We're okay, he said. I think. That night he sat alone, holding the card, staring at the number. His mind replayed everything. The stranger. The money. The words. Some choices follow us longer than we expect. Now he understood. Whatever was coming next. It was bigger than he ever imagined. The house felt too quiet after they left. The dad sat at the kitchen table long after his child went to bed, staring at the small card in his hand. No logo, no company name. Just a phone number printed in plain black ink. He didn't call. Not yet. His mind kept replaying the moment over and over. The calm voices. The way they looked around his house, not with judgment, but with understanding. Like they already knew the answers to questions he hadn't asked. By morning, his head hurt from lack of sleep. He stayed home, just like they told him. Around mid-morning, a single SUV returned. This time, it parked neatly in front of the house. Only 2 people stepped out, the same calm faces from before. A knock came at the door. The dad opened it slowly. May we come in? One of them asked. He stepped aside. They sat at the table with him. No rush, no pressure. One of them placed a folder on the table, but didn't open it right away. You've probably been wondering why we're here, the visitor said. Yes, the dad replied. All night, the visitor nodded. The man you helped was not homeless. The dad blinked. Then why was he on the street? He chose to be, the visitor answered. For a reason. The words didn't make sense. Chosen? The dad asked, why would anyone choose that? To see how people treat someone who appears to have nothing, the visitor said calmly. The dad leaned back, trying to process it. So, this was some kind of test? He asked. The visitor didn't deny it. The man you met has resources, they continued. But he also wanted truth, not polite words, not cameras, not attention. Just real human choices. The dad felt a wave of anger rise in his chest. You're telling me, he said, that my fear, my stress, my child watching strangers outside our home, that was part of something planned? The visitor met his eyes. No, they said softly. Your fear was real, and it was not our intention to scare you. The dad took a breath, trying to calm himself. Then why me? He asked, why my street? The visitor opened the folder slightly, revealing notes and photos, but nothing invasive. You didn't stand out because you were poor, they said. You stood out because you hesitated. The dad frowned. Hesitated? Yes, the visitor replied. Most people walked past him without slowing down. Some gave $1. Some avoided eye contact. You stopped. You thought about your child. You struggled. And then you gave everything anyway. The dad looked down at his hands. I didn't do it for a reward, he said quietly. We know, the visitor replied. That's why it mattered. The room went silent. The man you helped, the visitor continued, has spent years trying to understand something simple. Why some people choose kindness when it costs them. The dad shook his head slowly. I almost didn't, he admitted. I needed that money. That's exactly the point, the visitor said. The dad swallowed. So where is he now? He asked. The visitor smiled faintly. Watching. And grateful. The dad felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, confusion, anger, something close to pride, but heavier. I didn't save him, the dad said. I just helped, the visitor nodded. And in doing so, you showed who you are when no one is watching. The dad leaned back in his chair. "So what happens now?" he asked. The visitor closed the folder. "Now," they said, "we learn more about you, not to judge. To understand." The dad stiffened slightly. "You're not taking my child," he said quickly. "No," the visitor replied firmly. "Never." That answer came too fast to be rehearsed. "You are not in danger," the visitor added. "And neither is your family." The dad exhaled slowly. "Then why does this still feel unreal?" he asked. "Because," the visitor said gently, "real kindness often leads to unexpected paths." They stood up. "We will return tomorrow," they said, not with questions, with answers. As they walked toward the door, the dad stopped them. "Why did he say I wouldn't regret it?" he asked. The visitor paused. "Because," they said, "some moments reveal who we are. And those moments stay with us." They left quietly. The dad stood alone in the doorway, sunlight pouring into the house. For the first time since that night, fear loosened its grip, but curiosity took its place. Because now he knew the truth about the stranger, and somehow, it made everything even bigger. The next day felt different, not lighter, not easier, just different. The dad woke up before the alarm, staring at the ceiling. The fear that once filled his chest had faded, but it left something behind, questions, thoughts, a quiet pressure he couldn't name. He made breakfast with what little was left in the kitchen. As his child ate, he watched closely, thinking about how close he had come to having nothing at all. After school drop-off, he returned home and sat at the same table where the visitors had spoken to him. He kept replaying their words. "You hesitated. You struggled. You still gave everything." That part stuck with him. He didn't see himself as brave or generous. He saw himself as tired, as someone doing the best he could with very little. A knock came at the door. This time he wasn't afraid. The same two visitors stepped inside. They didn't sit right away. "Today isn't about the man you helped," one of them said. "It's about you." The dad crossed his arms slightly, not defensive, just uncertain. "I don't understand why my life matters to people like you," he said. The visitor nodded. "Tell us about it." The dad hesitated. Talking didn't come easy. But something in their tone felt genuine. He spoke slowly. He talked about becoming a father earlier than planned, about promises that were made and broken, about nights spent choosing between gas and groceries, about learning to smile when his child asked for things he couldn't afford. He talked about pride, and how sometimes pride was the only thing keeping him upright. "I've been ignored my whole life," he said quietly. "I didn't think anyone noticed me." The visitors listened. No notes, no interruptions. "When I saw that man," the dad continued, "I saw myself. Not now, before, when I needed help and no one stopped." He swallowed hard. "I didn't think it would matter," he said. "I just didn't want him to feel invisible." Silence filled the room. "That," one visitor said softly, "is why this mattered," they explained then. "Not about money, not about power. About perspective." The man on the street wasn't testing generosity. He was observing humanity without filters, no cameras, no audience, just choices made in private. "And most people fail," the visitor said. "Not because they're bad, because they're afraid." The dad nodded slowly. "I was afraid too," he admitted. "But you still chose," the visitor replied. The dad leaned back, eyes moist but steady. "So what happens now?" he asked again. This time the answer was different. "Nothing changes overnight," the visitor said. "And that's important." The dad looked confused. "We don't believe in miracles that erase struggle," they continued. "We believe in support that creates stability." The dad listened carefully. They spoke about help that doesn't humiliate, about opportunity that doesn't demand loyalty, about assistance that respects dignity. "Kindness shouldn't trap people in debt," the visitor said. "It should free them." The dad's chest tightened. "I don't want pity," he said quickly. "We don't offer pity," the visitor replied. "We offer respect." The room felt heavy with emotion. They stood up slowly. "Tomorrow," one visitor said, "we'll talk about practical steps. Not gifts, not promises. Real changes." Before leaving, one of them paused at the door. "You taught your child something powerful without knowing it," they said. The dad looked over at the photo on the wall again. "What?" he asked. "That kindness isn't about having extra," the visitor said. "It's about choosing even when it costs." After they left, the dad sat alone. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel saved. He felt seen. And somehow, that meant more than money ever could. The final meeting happened early in the morning. No SUVs this time, just one quiet car parked across the street. The dad watched from the window as two familiar faces stepped out and walked toward his home. He didn't feel nervous anymore. He felt steady. When they sat down at the table, one of them spoke first. "We want to be clear," they said. "What happens next is not a reward. It's a response." The dad nodded. They explained everything carefully, slowly, in plain words. The man from the sidewalk had spent years quietly supporting people who showed integrity under pressure. Not with attention, not with headlines, with quiet systems designed to help people stand on their own. "This isn't about money falling from the sky," the visitor said. "It's about removing the weight that keeps people stuck." They talked about stability. Help with rent so the dad wouldn't live month to month in fear. Reliable transportation so work was no longer a gamble. Access to training that fit around parenting, not the other way around. Nothing flashy, nothing sudden. Just breathing room. The dad listened, asking questions, pushing back when something felt uncomfortable. "I don't want my child thinking things are handed to us," he said. "They won't be," the visitor replied. "Everything requires effort. We're only removing barriers." That answer mattered. Over the next weeks, change came quietly. No announcements. No crowds. Bills stopped piling up. The fridge stayed full. The car stopped breaking down every other month. Work became steadier because survival was no longer stealing his focus. The biggest change wasn't financial. It was how he walked. He stood taller. He listened more patiently. He laughed easier with his child. He had energy again. One afternoon, he passed the same sidewalk where he'd met the stranger. Someone else sat there now, hungry, quiet, ignored. He stopped. This time he didn't give money. He gave time. He listened. He spoke. He treated the person like a human being, not a problem to be solved. When he walked away, he felt something warm in his chest. Not pride, purpose. Months passed. Life wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was stable, predictable, safe. One evening, his child asked him a simple question. "Why did you help that man when you didn't have anything?" The dad thought for a moment. "Because," he said, "sometimes doing the right thing reminds us who we are." The child nodded, satisfied. Later that night, the dad sat alone on the porch, watching the street. No SUVs, no watchers. Just phone buzzed. A single message. "Thank you for staying who you are." No name. He smiled. That night on the sidewalk hadn't made him rich. It had revealed him. And sometimes, that's the kind of moment that changes everything.